Hey, welcome back to the S2 Tier 1 series with me, Shazin. We're going to continue now with video number 6, I believe, if I'm counting that correctly. We left off talking about Separation 101, as you saw. Quite a bit of things to think about. And as I said, this applies universally across all airports in the Arabian VACC, with the exception of this little thing right here, which is unique to Dubai. But hey, speaking of Dubai, okay, that's the kind of segue here, because as it turns out, Dubai is special, very special, and what we see here is actually not what we apply into Dubai, because what are we trying to do at Dubai? So I'm just going to get rid of this flow separation thing, by the way. Okay, so Dubai is a very busy and populous airport, very populated airport. And it is an airport, given how much activity that it sees and how little room we have to maneuver, in terms of the fact that we only have one runway for departures and one runway for arrival, and even so, they're both pretty closely spaced together. They're pretty closely spaced together, as you can see. Unlike airports such as if you think about over on the west, we got Qatar, Doha, got two huge runways and a massive terminal. Again, don't question my drawing skills here, but let's say this is a terminal, just pretend. And these runways are really spaced out by quite a bit, So you can have simultaneous departures, simultaneous arrivals, just to kind of keep it simple, really. In reality, obviously, you have restrictions on what you're allowed to do with simultaneous operations, or the way you mix operations, but, a big airport like that, you have a lot of room to play with. Dubai, though, not so much. Which, if you pair this with the fact that we have to accommodate a very large number of traffic, a large volume of traffic, we have to be as efficient as we can. We have to make as much use of what we have. We have to maximize what we have. And that also means, putting a question mark on all of this. Do we really need to apply, for example, runway separation minimum? I talked about this, right? So if I just sort of bring back. Do we really need to wait until they pass the stop bar, for example? Do we really need to wait until they're completely clear of the opposite threshold? Can't we give landing clearances or takeoff clearances any sooner based off of some criteria that we could prescribe ourselves? What about wake? We get it, generally speaking, a bigger plane equates to just having a maximum, so rather go at it the other way. If you want to carry more passengers, you want a bigger plane that can have a higher takeoff weight, and that makes the overall plane bigger, so to speak. So you're thinking in terms of weight, but is weight the only real way to measure an airplane? Because I haven't even mentioned size. I mean, yeah, we have the names, but it's really not a size. It's just a classification which is based in and of itself off of weight. We're not really measuring the size of aircraft. Would that probably be a factor? In today's video, we're going to tackle all of those questions. Let's start with wake. So if we go back to what we said there, generally speaking, the bigger planes produce bigger wake turbulences. But at the end of the day, it is a phenomenon that depends upon your wings. You can imagine if you had stubby little wings, teeny tiny little wings, well then your wake turbulence is actually not going to be as much compared to an aircraft that, for whatever reason, is not that much heavier but has a much bigger wing. You have so much more air that it interacts with, and therefore the effect of the wake turbulence is actually greater, as you can see. So, in other words, can we throw in wingspans to the mix in addition to how much they weigh? Well, that's exactly what Dubai has done with what's now called EWTS, Enhanced Wake Turbulence Separation. So things get kind of interesting here. So, as I mentioned, why stick to just the weights when you can think about the wingspans? So as you can see, the same weights here, the same weights here, and the same weights here. But if you look over on this side, you have much more sort of condensed, spread wingspan criterias. In fact, you can actually have aircraft within the same sort of weight classification. Actually, let's go with this one here. You can have aircraft sort of within this classification that would have originally been one category, as you can see, but now because of their wingspans, they could be different categories. Isn't that fascinating? So with this, we get a bigger spread. So now, the most amount of separation that we apply, light following a super, it's 3 minutes. It's still 3 minutes here. But now if you spread it out with all this extra classification that we've got, which as you can see is based off of a turbulence category alphabet. It goes from alpha all the way to golf. Dubai Enhanced Wake Turbulence Separation, Wake Turbulence Category. Category Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, etc. For the record, number one, you can see examples of such aircraft over on the library. As you can see, a 737 is a class Delta, a 777 is a class Bravo even, an A380 is a class Alpha, an A320 is a class Delta. On the other hand, your controller client, your tag, and your departure list will also show you the code or the category. So you don't have to memorize which aircraft is what per se, but it's good to know. And now with that, you have all these extra timings and distances. So what is the benefit, really? If we take into account wingspans, and if we sort of merge that to the weights that we have, but also spread out the timings and the distances, what does this allow us to do? So let's think about that for a second. So here's your story for today. A Boeing 767. Actually, no. Let's go with someone else. Let's go with an Airbus A310. This little A310 right here has departed from a runway. And on that runway right now is a 737. Let's make that a little bit more of an obvious color. There we go. Okay. And just to show the size of it, I'll reduce the size, so to speak. This is now a 737. Now, if we apply ICAO turbulence separation minimas, Boeing 737-800. These are the ICAO codes, by the way, in case you don't know. So, right. So, if he's on the runway, when do we separate? Or rather, when do we deduce that it's a good time to take off? Well, as per ICAO, if you put in the categories, let me just change this color here. Let's make this a little bit more darker. There we go. Okay. So, A310. So, as per the ICAO category, that is going to be a heavy. And this is a medium. So, we go back here. So, it's a medium following a heavy. It is 2 minutes of separation. So, we're applying 2 minutes. All right, 2 minutes of separation, which is a lot for an A310. Really? I mean, have you seen an A310? I mean, sure, it is a wide body, yes, But it's not that big of a plane. It's got two aisles, but it's really not that big of a plane. It's got stubby little wings. You're telling me that this has the same category as a 747-400? Which is obviously bigger? Well, as it turns out, an A310 in this classification is only a class Charlie, as you can see. An A310 is class Charlie. So let's do it in a different color here. So let's do it in a box just to show the difference. Is Charlie. And the 737 is a class Delta. And now if you look at the differences between the two, Charlie and Delta, they're one after the other. Deltas, you've got your A320 family, and look, right there is your 737 family, including the NGs and the MAXs. If you now look at the timings, and again, as I said before, you can see the timings here as well. If you just come to this one right here, departure, time-based separation for successive full-length departures. This is the same sort of thing that I have here. This is just a different chart, really, but it's the same information, the exact same thing. You can see it in the library. But you have your follower, who is now a Delta, following a Charlie. Well, look at that. You only need to apply 1 minute and 20 seconds of separation. 1 minute, 20 seconds. Holy moly, you're saving a lot of time doing this. Right? Isn't that something?